All right, it's Monday, October 10th. This is a pre-opening SPY report about 45 minutes to go before the actual open. You can see here the pre-market range, whereas things kind of started much lower late last night. We've been rallying ever since to form a range up as seen between the blue lines here. But if you look at the daily chart, the range so far is still way below the midpoint of the prior day. So it's setting up a good opportunity to sell in some form on any kind of a failure near the open if we stay up here and first start working down towards the low of the range here, which is also the low of yesterday. So we'll keep that in mind. In terms of the bigger picture, just to repeat, until the midpoint of this weekly bar is taken out, we're going to be biased to the downside, looking for follow-through down here. A 2-down week, which is kind of the bottom of this pre-market low, then projects to the bottom of the week 2 weeks ago, and in that case we get a monthly red bar that looks like we're having a 3-2 continuation lower, and some of these yellow lines here represent the targets one by one as we head down. The first 2 yellow bars should really be hit comfortably the way I'm seeing it here. You can go back on the weekly, those were developed going back on the weekly chart to those weekly lows if you want to look at it that way. So I can see any continuation lower here on a either it would be 3 weeks in a row of 2 down continuations kind of reaching this area, and then maybe you can get a reversal. Well, I'm sorry, you had the shooter bar in here. I didn't see that clearly. But I mean, as we break down there, these are the targets that should be very likely to be hit. At that point, then you're on the monthly chart here. That projects down to that big green bar low at some point. If you get another continuation month to the downside, that's kind of the next monthly target, and that's the big picture. And if we get down there, quite frankly, you can see there's a lot of close areas here that should be taken out as well. So we'll see how bad things could get. I'm trying to think of, in terms of the upside, there is an interesting little gap. But now, if you look back on the chart, you're going to see this. We had a gap to the upside that was needed to be filled, which we did on Friday. Now there is a little gap up in here that could be filled at some point. And quite frankly, if we get some kind of reversal, these will be targets to fill in at some point. But and if we do that early in the week, which I'm not expecting, right out of the gates, that takes us right up close to the, just a broad midpoint of last bar. So maybe in some crazy way we come up and fill that gap before we head lower. It's tricky in terms of when you have a forecast of a down week, how it's going to go day by day by day. I mean, this was a down week in here, and I remember this 2 weeks ago. It was like a pause day that failed, an up day, another attempt down that failed early. And then finally you get the big move down on Friday, and that all that action created a red week. So sometimes it doesn't happen on the first day of the week, but I'm anticipating pretty clear downside action here in some form as the week unfolds. So the first one today, if it's going to occur today, is going to be some kind of failure bar. I'm trying to see if there's any obvious targets here where we could take those out, take out some stops, and then start lower. But if we get some kind of failure bar, we're going to look to, first take out. You can see there's an area where stops might be. We'd probably hit there. And then we just want to kind of target the way it's developing here with a rally starting the day. You got to target that area first and then see if we break through or not, as opposed to the type of day where we immediately break through the pre-market lows and have a lot of momentum. That happened, you don't see it on the chart. You don't see the pre-market action from yesterday, but that was like the low of the range, and then we immediately broke through, and that started a down day, right? Pretty with a lot of momentum. So we'll see what happens here. Again, always looking at the opening price action relative to this range. If we start up green, I'm going to look for. You almost, if we get a big green bar above this range on the 15-minute chart and follow through, you would think a big rally might occur, and you want to try that. As always, you'd have your stop at the midway point of that first bar. But I'm always going to look for failures on any up move. And quite frankly, if you want to be real aggressive, just knowing that the odds are the week's going to take out its lows and the month is going to probably turn red and continue a little bit towards these targets, you can get aggressive selling. That's one way to play it too. And kind of, as long as you stay below the midpoint of yesterday, that would be your stop if you want to be real aggressive at the start. So let's see how it opens. But again, all bias to the downside unless something, really changes, and I'll note that if it does, either this morning or in the days ahead.